I didn't even realize I was going live. Okay. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Where's everybody? I'm a little early. Definitely early. Definitely early. I like I was I guess I was talking to myself. I didn't click the live button or something. I don't know. It seems like if I gotten rusty on my own show. But tonight we're going to watch the debate together, and I hope some of you will certainly join me as we do that together. Uh, this is a very, very, very serious time. Very serious time, and um, I don't know what to say about it other than we really have to make sure that we talk to our friends, our family, our loved ones about voting, the power of voting. And even though this is not a traditional show, hey, Renee, yay, my first guest saying hello to me. I'm so glad that you're here, Renee. Yeah, I am. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Feel free if you're on Facebook. I did drop the link to come on stage if you feel like coming on stage and keeping me company. Feel free to do that. And you guys, just like any other show, hit that like button, subscribe if you're on YouTube. I really need it. Helps the algorithm. It's a free way to support a channel. YouTube is very difficult to grow. It is a beast to grow a YouTube channel. Let me tell you. Okay, what did you say? I'll pop in later. Okay, yeah, I know. I'm sure you are very busy, probably trying to feed your children and all that good stuff. We're right at that dinner time. Um, space, but I'm so thankful that you're in. And everybody else, good evening. I see some other people have signed on. I can't tell where you're signed in from necessarily, but if you are, wherever you are, hit that thumbs up button. And particularly if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Okay, please support my channel. I had to start because earlier than I had anticipated, because LinkedIn doesn't have 15-minute increments in which I could start. So here I am really, really early. So, but I want you guys to come back. I see some people left. Come on back into the room. You don't have to leave. I'll still be here. And we're going to be looking at the ABC News coverage because I can get their coverage of the debate directly from YouTube, and I don't have to pay or put any extra codes or anything in. So that's how we're going to stream this. And of course, hopefully you all have seen the links. There is a link for you to come on stage if you'd like to keep me company. There is a link. I put the link in. I know I put it on Facebook, and I know I put it in on. It's definitely in the YouTube chat or whatever. So those of you who have just signed on a few minutes ago, say something to me in the chat. Say hello to me in the chat. Decide to come on up and keep me company. I don't have any guests tonight. It's just the streaming of thing. Hello, Johnny. I should say Reverend Johnny Dunlap. How are you? I'm so glad you came. This is so important. It's so listen. It's so important, particularly those people that are in okay. Okay, Zach. Hey, Zach. Oh, good, Johnny. You're doing well. Zach, my YouTube address is remixing. I'll write it here. Sing politics. You'll see it just like this if you Google it. or just go on YouTube and look for it. Politics plus sign culture with Pam. Here. Okay. All right. Do you see it? Do you see it, Zach? I think I had placed the no, I didn't place the YouTube link today in the Facebook thing. I didn't. All right. Okay, Johnny. Johnny, I even have a link in the Facebook so that you can come on stage if you like to. It's up to you. It's up to you. You can text me or you can come up on stage or whatever. This platform that I'm utilizing, it's called StreamYard, and StreamYard likes people to use Chrome as its browser. Okay, it likes people to use Chrome. So that's just to let you know, it doesn't work well at all if you're using something like Safari. You know, if you have a MacBook and you use Safari, it doesn't like Safari. It likes Firefox and Chrome. And most people use Chrome for Google. All right. How's everybody feeling? How do you guys think, who do you think will win the debate tonight? Who do you think will win? I'm so glad that they have muted the mics and that they're going to that they've muted the mics and all that good stuff. I think that is excellent, so that you don't have someone bullying and talking over people or whatever. All right. Okay, Renee says Biden. I say Biden too. If for no other reason, straight up common sense. How about that? And we all know that common sense is not common. Okay. Oh, hey, Edith. Great job, Pam. Or check back in closer to beginning of the debate. Okay. Yeah, I was telling everybody that I had to start early because I was going to start at 7:45. And and then start the thing, but I had to start at 7:30 because of StreamYard and the LinkedIn situation. So this time goes by so fast anyway. I'll be on both YouTube and Facebook. Oh, all right, Renee. All right. Which you must you're probably using your phone and your laptop. You're going to use the two at the same time. Oh, great. Oh, this is so it's so funny when I could play some other things. I saw this really great ad today in a group chat for okay, yeah. That's what you're doing, the phone and the laptop. Yes, girl. That's how listen, I've got phones here and everything. So I'm on it. Yeah. Oh, well, hello, Dr. Letitia Nicole Beatty. Oh my goodness. I didn't think that you were the political kind, but I appreciate you stopping by. It's good to see you. All right. You guys are so kind to keep me company. Oh, I'm working it. Well, I try. I try real hard on this channel because I'm really the whole purpose of why I even started this channel is because I'm so serious about people exercising their right to vote and being knowledgeable about why they should vote and vote every time in every election, not just for the presidential election, for even the mundane elections, because all politics are local. Okay. And it is, and as you will see what's going on in various states, like with Oklahoma and Louisiana, with the Ten Commandments and all of that being introduced into the schools, for the most part, a lot of people say, well, I'm a Christian, so yeah, we need to get that back into the schools. But here's the situation, is that in our Constitution, there is a separation of church and state. There really is. And therefore, there are other people who have other faiths. And do we say that we are domineering and more dominant than the other people? In America, you have a right to worship how you please. And it would be tantamount to somebody telling you, well, you go to a holiness church. We don't do this at the AME church. Or you go to an AME church and you may sprinkle with water, you may not dip for baptism. I mean, you get into things, tomato, and all of that stuff, and you really get into things where you start violating people's First Amendment rights and other constitutional values. So we have to be very careful and mindful of what this is. And I had a person on, my beloved pastor, who is also a prolific author. And he talked to us about Christian nationalism, which is it's anything. I hate the word that they put Christian in it, but it's not. It is not what it sounds like. Hey, Cynthia. Hey, how you doing? How are you? That is our former representative in the state of Michigan, Cynthia A. Johnson, who stood up to Trump and Rudy Giuliani when they came there trying to steal votes from the hardworking citizens of Detroit, my hometown, and Dr. Letitia Nicole Beatty's hometown. That's all right. All right. I hope you guys on Facebook, do you see, tell me with a one or whatever, if you see the link that I put in there in the chat. It's in the chat. And let me know. Let me see. Pam, what's your YouTube? It's hold on. I wrote it once. Here it is. Make sure you see my picture on it, because there's a few other channels that are duplicating my videos and stuff. But make sure you see that picture like you see on here on it, and it's there. Oh, it's not there, Letitia? Did you look? It's not in the chat. I could have sworn. I know I put it in the chat on Facebook. It's not there. Okay, let me shoot. Let me go and put it there again. I did it on my phone, but I could have sworn. Okay, no, it's not there. Thank you for letting me know. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Okay, guys, I'm going to bow out for a second till I can go switch over. Okay. I'm going over to my Facebook page. I see you guys. Okay, there you are, Letitia. Here it is. I'm getting ready to cut and I'm getting ready to paste it in there now. Here is the link. Okay. Okay. There it is. It's there. I just put it in, guys. See, it's showing up that I had it in there twice. So I don't know what happened. Okay. Okay. There it is. I put it in there. Okay. Hold on. Move this out. Okay, so you should have it. And like I said, okay, good. We see it. Great. Great. So if you want to use it, please do. We have this platform, StreamYard, likes to use Google Chrome and Firefox as the browsers. Just in case, if you have a MacBook like me, I for whatever reason I will use Safari a lot, but StreamYard doesn't like Safari. It doesn't like Safari. Let's see. How about without going on stage? You know what? I think we can do that. You can keep your camera off, Renee, because I know who you are, and just have your volume on. Just make sure your volume is up on your computer. You could do that. All right. All right. Yay, Zach. Thank you, Zach. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because you've been pretty faithful. You've been very active and stuff. So that's great. All right. Yeah, you can feel free. You can, if you come backstage and I see you backstage, then you can just, you don't have to cut on your camera. You can just I can put you up and you can just talk if you feel like, because girl, I know I know you got those trips. Renee Schauk is the Wonder Woman, guys. She has triplets who are, let's see, did they just graduate to go into the first grade, Renee? So I have much respect. I have much respect. I understand. And she is a great Politico. 6. They just turned 6 years old. She's got 2 girls and a boy, all triplets. Triplets. Ooh, and in the first grade, they just graduated from kindergarten to the first grade. Yay. So she's fighting hard to make sure that we keep America at least as it is and make it better. Not great again from the past of Jim Crow and all that foolishness, which is the way who the orange man wants to take us back to. We're not doing that. And this is really important for those of you. Johnny, are you still in the chat? For those of you who are in that are faith leaders and whatnot, you really need to understand that with the type of Christianity these people are talking about in Christian nationalism, it is not what it is that you're teaching at your churches. Okay? It's not. I highly recommend this book, When Prophets Preach. It is written by a local pastor for those of you who are literally here in North Carolina. It has been written by Jonathan C. Augustine, Reverend Dr. Jonathan Augustine. He is the senior pastor of St. Joseph AME Church. And this is not a big book at all. Bishop William Barber wrote the foreword. He has the most Reverend Michael Curry. Remember Michael Curry? He married Meghan and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and a bunch of very dignified and learned people have endorsed this book, and it is really so good, and he really explains well about Christian nationalism. Also, I have a show. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have a show that is about that as well. Okay, I do. Let's see. Hey, Showy Howie. I made fly hair accessories after the Veep debate. I'm hoping for some inspiration tonight. Oh, wow, you did. I did not know you were a woman of so many talents. You need to show us those things. Okay. I bet you they're quite interesting. All right. Zach, there's a tremendous amount of misinformation and coonery on TikTok aimed at Black people, and sadly, it's working. Listen, oh Lord, I can't. Don't even get me started, because when I saw that Kwame Kilpatrick, okay, I'm from Detroit. My boy Zach is from Detroit. Dr. Letitia Nicole Beatty's from Detroit. Listen, I want to ask Kwame, where is our money for our reparation? Not reparations, our money for the restitution that he owes Detroit. Let him think about that. And even though Trump pardoned him or got him out of jail, he didn't have to endorse anybody. He could have just kept his mouth shut. That would have been much more impactful on the positive side. Curry is retiring. A new man was elected this week. Oh, Showy Howie, are you talking about in the Episcopal Church? Yes. Okay, that's good to know. All right. That's right, Dr. Letitia. That's right. That's right. Yeah, Kwame, just pay us the money back and just be quiet. Be quiet. Don't say nothing. We don't need you to say nothing. Boom, boom, bang, nothing. Let's see. I knew it was just a matter of time when Kwame had to kiss the ring. Oh Lord, he could have said something like, "I appreciate him for what he did for me," or whatever, and left it alone. Yes, the Episcopal Church. Okay, well, he deserves to retire. That is good that he's going to retire. He's a wonderful man. That Bishop Curry. Yeah, he's a wonderful man. Well, we just got, oh wow, in 6 more minutes, the 8. I'm using, like I told you guys, I'm using the ABC News live feed on YouTube for the debate tonight, so that I didn't have to put any special codes in or anything like that for their live feed or any, or whatnot. So I want to watch it, but we want to do it. Let's see. We can talk about Kwame someday. Oh, yeah. Showy Howie, are you from Detroit or from Michigan? I can't remember. I think you may have told me at one time, but I don't remember. I don't remember. Oh, Oakland County. Hey, that's close. That's just down the street. It's just down the street, literally. Okay. All right. Yep. So, anyways, how many of you think that Biden will win the debate? Put a 1 in the chat if you think Biden will win the debate. Put a 2 in the chat if you think the orange man will win. 1 for Biden, 2 for orange. Oh boy, that what do you think about Bowman losing? I was very disappointed, but you know what? I think they're kind of, I don't know. You know what? I never understood what possessed him to pull a fire alarm. I think, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sad that he lost. I am very sad that he lost. Okay. Okay. I got 2 1s in the chat. Biden's winning. I know that Renee Shaw already voted. She felt that Biden will win too. I do think that it's really good that they're going to have the mics off and all that good stuff. I think that is just so critically important, to having the mics off. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. All right. All right. Edith, great. Okay. I'm looking forward to Edith participating, coming back. And like I said, you guys are welcome to come on stage or anything like that. I'm curious to see how I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen to get ready for, okay. So we'll be ready. We will be ready at 1:55. It's gonna start. All right. All right. We shall see. See how it goes. I want a Rumpelstiltskin moment. Oh, Zach. He spoke against Israel and AIPAC, spent 15 million. I know. They said that was the largest, that was the most expensive race ever. That is insane. And that's the part about politics that's really driving me nuts, is about the insane amount of money that's in politics. It's too much. It's just too much. I want a Rumpelstiltskin moment. Showy, you always have the jokes. All right. Well, we just have a little more time to wait, and we shall see. We shall see how it's gonna be, y'all. And I guess hopefully they won't have too many commercials in this, but they do have to pay the bills. Okay. Waiting for, okay. They'll pull the trigger from their end. All right. Everybody have a pretty good day today. I know I have a little, I'm really anxious about this debate. I'm just hoping that, hoping that all goes well. Because, when Biden gets nervous, and I think that's one thing that people forget, he has a speech impediment to begin with, right? And so when he gets nervous, it triggers that his
every time I needed a new phone, I had to switch carriers.
I told them at Verizon, everyone can get that iPhone 15 on them.
Now that I got a huge storage and battery upgrade, I'm officially done switching.
New and existing customers get iPhone 15 on us when they trade in any iPhone. Verizon.
Be the most important day in the history of our country.
President Biden, former President Trump. They both want your vote and both want a second term.
Here's the simple truth. You can't love your country only when you win.
This nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you.
Now, they finally face each other in front of a divided nation.
I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people.
We're going to take our country back.
Making their cases for the issues that matter most to you.
Secure the border. I'm ready to fix it.
We're going to close up the border.
We have the best economy in the world.
I will end the Biden inflation nightmare.
Right now, live.
I just want to debate this guy.
Make my day, pal.
From across the country and around the globe, this is an ABC News special, The Race for the White House. Now, from ABC News World Headquarters, David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here for the presidential debate. It starts in just under an hour now. We will carry the debate live right here on ABC, of course. A presidential debate, the likes of which we've never seen before. A sitting president, a former president. The race is a dead heat, essentially tied. The polls out tonight, and we'll show you. And as you know, the stakes are enormous. President Biden and Donald Trump are about to square off in the first of two scheduled debates. For the first time, a sitting president will debate a former president, and this will be the earliest presidential debate ever. Both campaigns looking to shake up the race tonight, both candidates looking to make their case and to try to pull ahead. President Biden and former President Trump standing on the same stage together and standing before a divided nation amid polls showing this race essentially locked even. Election day 5 months away. We have our powerhouse political team right here in the studio tonight, our correspondents standing by across the country in the key battlegrounds in Ukraine, in Israel, and you will also hear from the American voters right here tonight. Tonight's debate happening earlier in the election cycle than we've seen before, both President and Donald Trump agreeing to move up the timetable essentially before early voting begins in the fall. Tonight's debate also features the two oldest presidential candidates in U.S. history. President Biden is now 81. Donald Trump is 78. Polls repeatedly show that many Americans don't want either one of these candidates, which is why tonight could prove pivotal. Who can make the case? Who will show they are up to the job? Will either of them be able to change minds tonight? Donald Trump is also now the first convicted felon to run on a major party ticket while simultaneously battling criminal trials in Washington, Florida, and Georgia. Some voters have signaled this has changed their thinking, but many more have said it makes no difference at all. President Biden has spent several days now in debate prep at Camp David, leading up to tonight, holding several 90-minute mock debates before taking the stage this evening. Donald Trump holding several rallies, I should say, ahead of tonight's showdown. Also behind the scenes, some policy sessions with his advisors. The debate tonight, moderated by CNN, it will air right here on ABC. We should also note here tonight that ABC News will moderate the presidential debate this September. Lindsay Davis, who's sitting here right to my side, she and I will moderate, and we have offered that debate to all of the networks to carry as well, just as we're doing right here tonight. So we are about 57 minutes or so from the start of this debate. We will carry it live again here on ABC, our powerhouse political team right here to set up the night, what to watch for, what could make a difference, what the stakes are. This will very likely, as we all know in this room, be a consequential night in this race for president. There is a lot on the line for both of these candidates. Let's get right to ABC's Rachel Scott. She's going to kick it off for us tonight. She's live in the spin room in Atlanta, setting for tonight's debate. And Rachel, the debate there will have no audience. The microphones will be muted, only on when a particular candidate is their turn to speak. And you've also learned more tonight about the distance between these two candidates, about notes or no notes, and whether or not they'll have any interaction with their advisors during the actual debate.
Yes, David, this debate is going to look and feel a whole lot different for the candidates and also for the American people that are watching. So the candidates themselves will be 8 feet apart on that debate stage. Their microphones will only be turned on when it is their turn to speak. They will not be allowed to communicate or talk to their aides or advisors during commercial breaks. They will also not be allowed to take anything pre-written onto that debate stage. They will be allowed to write things down once they get behind the podium. Of course, there will be no studio audience tonight, no one to cheer them on. That's something Donald Trump has complained about, but his advisors are hoping that it does keep him more on message, David.
Well, let me ask you about that, Rachel, because I know Donald Trump's team behind the scenes, you've got some new reporting on this in recent days, that they actually hope that not having an audience sort of egging on the candidates, things that they like to hear, might actually help, they believe, keep their candidate, the former President Donald Trump, on message in a way that perhaps we haven't seen.
And we know that the former president, David, feeds off of a crowd. When you look at those past debates, he really does feed off of the crowd cheering after he delivers some of those attack lines. And so that's why we've seen the former president complain about not having a studio audience there. But his advisors do tell me they believe that this will help keep the former president on message, focused on the critical issues: crime, immigration, inflation, things that they believe are top of mind to voters. Of course, the big question is what version of Donald Trump shows up tonight? Is it the combative former president who's on the attack, or is it a much more measured version of the former president who wants to stay on message, David?
And let me ask you, Rachel, about President Biden himself. He'll be on the stage, of course, opposite Donald Trump. It was 4 years ago. We remember the debates back then, the sort of the crosstalk, the interruptions. Is it the hope of the Biden campaign, of President Biden himself, that this new rule about the mic being off when you're not speaking will actually help the president get his message across on some of these key issues?
That is the hope, David. But I will tell you, I've been talking to advisors for the Biden campaign who have been here in the spin room, and they do acknowledge one thing, that even though the viewers may not hear an interruption because the former president's mic might be turned off when it's not his turn to speak, that does not mean that President Biden will not hear it himself. And so his advisors are hoping that the president ignores sort of any distractions. But they do know that the former president could still make some sort of offhanded comment, some type of attack line if he wanted to. They're hoping that the president stays focused, stays on message. But we'll have to see how this all plays out, David.
Okay, Rachel Scott right there in Atlanta for us, leading our coverage off. Rachel, thank you as always. 53 minutes until the debate. We're going to carry it right here on ABC, but who's counting? Everybody in this room and everybody at home. We know these presidential debates, Mary, have outsized audiences. This is the earliest presidential debate ever. This was part of the strategy of the White House, the Biden campaign, and the Trump campaign. They both agreed to do this earlier to reach voters, and particularly because they know this race has been a dead heat for months. America knows both of these men. So what is the president hoping to do tonight to try to convince people who've already made up their minds that perhaps they should give him another chance?
Look, they know that not everyone has been engaged in this race yet, exactly as you said, and that is why they wanted to have this debate so early. The president's goal here is really to make clear to Americans, especially those critical independent voters who maybe haven't been fully engaged yet, what is really at stake here. The president's goal is to hold Donald Trump accountable for what he did when he was in office. He wants to remind voters of the chaos of the Trump years. And yes, he will argue that another Trump term would represent and present a danger to American democracy. He's going to tout his record, of course, but he really wants to remind everyone of what Donald Trump was like when he was in office. They see this as a jumpstart moment to try and get folks engaged, convince those voters that he can do this. But perhaps more important than substance, David, is going to be the president's performance. He knows age is a factor. He has to show voters he is up for the job and that he can win.
And that really is one of the key issues here, if not the key issue, the issue of age, of fitness, if he's up to a second term. We just saw the images of him arriving in Atlanta late today, then Donald Trump arriving shortly thereafter. We know the First Lady, Jill Biden, is there. She's offered reassuring words for a president, asking the American people to listen to her husband, but also to his heart. But bottom line here tonight, what is the biggest issue the president and this team believes he faces? Is it age, mental fitness? Is it the economy? What are they looking at?
Look, the president has been making his case out on the trail for weeks now. This is the largest audience, though, that he is going to have so far in this race to make that case. Yes, they know he needs a strong performance, but they feel that this is the best chance they have to really wake up voters and explain what is at stake here. They also feel, look, that Donald Trump supporters, they're not moving. They're not going to budge. They aren't someone they can persuade. But they do feel that Donald Trump isn't going to be able to grow much, and that's where they see opportunity for them.
We also have images of Donald Trump arriving there late today. He talked about a very different sort of prep work going into this debate for the former president. He said he has spent his whole life getting ready for this. There have been some policy sessions, as I mentioned earlier, with advisors. But he went out and held rallies. He polled the crowds, as we have seen him do in years past, on which Donald Trump should show up tonight, the combative one or the more statesman-like Donald Trump. But Mary Bruce, the question for both the former President Donald Trump and for President Biden, does President Biden bring up the fact that he is now a convicted felon, his opponent?
I certainly think he is going to bring it up. Look, he's running a campaign ad that is centered on this. We have seen the president comment on this. I think the question is, how much emphasis does he put on it? How far does he go in hitting the former president on this? This is a very different country and a very different set of circumstances than the last time that they faced off. You have had January 6th. You have had now the former president convicted of those 34 felony counts. The president is going to remind voters of all of that as they go into this.
And the question is, how much do you lean in on that? Yeah. And what will the counterpunch be from Donald Trump if you go there? Let's bring in Lindsay Davis. So, Lindsay, you and I are going to be taking notes off to the side on this debate. Well, we've got a few months to prepare for the September debate between these two men. Let me ask you, though, because you and I have talked about this before. I mentioned it earlier. This country knows these two men. They both have been president in front of the country, and most people have made up their minds on them. And so many Americans have said in poll after poll that we don't want either one of these candidates.
And there's a name for these highly coveted voters. They are called the double haters, right? It might sound like a song. It's a familiar tune. These are the people who don't like either of the choices. This is really the jump ball. This is the target for these two men on the stage because they potentially, based on what they see or don't see on that stage tonight, could perhaps hold their nose and go and vote and choose one of them come election day. If you look at our 538 Ipsos poll out just today, of those polled, 21% feel that they are double haters. They don't like either of the choices. but nearly half of those voters consider themselves triple haters. They don't like any of the choices, including RFK Jr. And so when you consider that in our last presidential election, it was decided by 44,000 votes in 3 swing states, these double haters matter.
Well, and the double haters isn't a surprise to us. That's the political phrase. They've given it all the political pundits. We are pundits for the night, but that's the phrase that's out there. But I think just regular folks, you hear it all the time. You know, how did we get here again?
Sure.
How is it possibly President Biden and Donald Trump up on that stage all over again? But it is. And so let's get to our political director, Rick Klein, who has been looking at the numbers over the course of many weeks. But most importantly, going into tonight, several major national polls showing how close this race is.
Yeah, David, you get anything from Trump leading by 6 in the New York Times poll to Biden losing by 2 in a Fox News poll from just a couple of days ago. And what it adds up to is a very tight race. This is the 538 polling average. And check that out. That is 0.2 of a percentage point that separate Trump and Biden. And what's striking to me is that it is barely changed for months. You have the two of them just running almost exactly even. The last couple of weeks, the last month since the Trump conviction got Biden a little bit of a bump, but really not that much. It's essentially a tied race nationally.
But everyone wanted to know that if there was a conviction in any of these cases, and obviously the New York City case just happened to come first, the hush money case, conviction on multiple felony counts, if there would be any movement. Really, the only major poll, if we go back to the other screen, was the Fox News poll that showed Joe Biden benefiting. That's really the only poll that shows him pulling out ahead in this way. The rest of them tend to show Donald Trump with a little bit of wind behind his back.
Exactly. And it's really all within the margin of error. And I don't think there's anyone that would doubt it's going to be an enormously close race. For the same factors that you're talking about, Lindsay mentions people that don't like either one of the candidates. That's how it manifests itself, is you have a very tight race where there isn't a lot of room for movement really for either candidate.
You also have been studying the key issues, and we're about to see something very telling from the voters in the battlegrounds on all of these issues. If you go down each one of these issues, Rick, show us what they're saying is the most important issue, and then which candidate voters are saying in these polls actually would do a better job than the other.
Yeah, David, this is again from our Ipsos 538 poll that came out just today. And inflation is the big one. Half of voters say that's going to be important to their vote. That is an enormous number. You've got about a third of voters, a little more than that say immigration is the #1 issue. And guess who that advantage is? That is Trump, trusted by by a 10-point edge on the issue of inflation and 12 points on the issues of immigration and the border. The issues that benefit Joe Biden are a little bit lower down on the list, but they are intensely felt issues. Political extremism, that's a Biden advantage. Abortion rights, which has been all over the news recently, that's a big Biden advantage. So I think that gives you some sense of the kind of things Biden wants to be talking about versus the kind of things Trump wants to be talking about tonight.
All right, Rick, we know we have Martha Raddatz here. She's just back from the edge of Gaza. You were on the shore of Gaza reporting for World News Tonight on the pier that the U.S. has built. We'll talk about that later in the hour. John Carl here. They both do This Week on Sunday mornings, and I'm dying to get your thoughts on everything here. But I wanted to show you something that these two have not seen before tonight, nor have Donna Brazile, Reince Priebus, and the rest of the team. This is the kind of material that we know that both campaigns study. They want to get their hands on. They want to know what the voters want to see tonight, what they need to hear in order to change their minds about the candidates. And we sent our team out to the key battlegrounds, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, these double haters that Lindsay was talking about, American voters out there who say, you know, I'm not sold really on either one of these guys. And how is this our choice? So we asked them a very simple question going into tonight's debate. What do you want to hear? What do you need to hear? And I want to get all of your reaction on the backside. Let's listen.
I would like to hear strength, someone that's strong, powerful, honesty, backbone of America.
I'm looking for a strong economy. My husband owns a business. Self-employed people are really struggling in this economy to make sure their customers are taken care of, even if they're doing okay business-wise. So it's the middle-class person that's struggling.
I would need to hear from the candidates that they really understand what the average person is going through.
The rampant inflation that we're in right now is critical. I mean, it's eating us alive.
Tonight, you know, we just want to hear from the candidates and see what they're going to do to boost the economy, put money back into Americans' pockets, and stabilize those interest rates.
Here in Scranton, like the price of gas, and with inflation, filling up my car every week and spending so much money on gas is something that takes up my whole paycheck.
I feel like I just need to hear something that gives me hope for the future in general. I feel like sometimes it's tough to listen to either side.
I just don't want false promises. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys are saying that you're going to do something, actually follow through with it.
I'm not looking to have anybody that wants to be in America not be here, but I think that everybody needs to be properly vetted and pull their weight once they get here.
Well, I think this election is critical to the country. I really do think that our democracy as we know it is at stake.
I'm just not very excited about the choices that we have for president. You know, we got two old white guys running against one another. Both of them could just about be my grandfather. The most important issue for me is the environment and climate change.
I have never felt worse about the options for presidential candidates this year. I really feel like it's not a valid choice.
I mean, I'm at a point where I just can't really, have a decision because of what my choices are. I'm going to vote, but I'm just not comfortable with who I'm voting for.
We have two people who have been there before, and some people feel in one way or the other, especially here in Pennsylvania. So the debate is going to do a lot for them to, I think, lean one way or another.
How hard is that? It's really incredible to hear, isn't it? 43 minutes now until this debate. We will carry it here on ABC News. Martha Raddatz, you have been on the other side of the table in these debates. You and I have both been across from both Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump in various different scenarios and debates along the way. These debates can turn on a dime, but you heard these issues over and over again, and we heard it everywhere. Inflation, the economy, immigration.
And these are the faces behind the poll numbers. This is what people care about. We can talk about, we can look how we think the debate went, but they're looking for very specific things that matter to them. That's what's important to them. That should be important to Donald Trump and Joe Biden. They want to reach those people. They want to answer those questions. They want to give those people faith in them as a candidate. And that is very tricky. And as you say, David, turning on a dime, you've moderated debates, Lindsay, you've moderated debates, I've moderated debates. You can go in there as a candidate or a moderator, and things change. You can study. I always say it's like studying for a college entrance exam and taking it live in front of 70 million people. But things can go wrong. You can know all you can about the Pentagon, about foreign policy, about anything. But the body language up there, I mean, Donald Trump was looming over Hillary Clinton at one of the debates. Joe Biden was much more aggressive in a debate than I thought he would be. So things are very, it's a tightrope up there.
And we always feel it across the desk, but we always are reminded that it's the candidates up there that the people at home are really, truly studying. And John Karl, you covered Donald Trump at the White House, chief White House correspondent for many years during that era. Which Donald Trump is going to show up tonight? For that matter, which Joe Biden will show up?
David, this is the largest audience by far that Donald Trump will have since he left the White House. What Republicans hope, this is an opportunity for him to answer the allegation that he is a threat to democracy, that he is a chaos agent, by being a disciplined Donald Trump who talks about the issues and about Biden's record. But the Donald Trump, the beating heart of Donald Trump's campaign, the way he won the Republican nomination, was by talking about retribution, promising to be a dictator on day one, by saying that the people that attacked the Capitol on January 6th were patriots and are now hostages, and saying that he would pardon them. An angry, aggrieved campaign is how he captured the Republican nomination. The question now is that the Donald Trump we see tonight, or does he try to turn it down and just talk about Biden's record?
To temper it a bit. On the other hand, what does President Biden do? What does he need to do? Let's bring in Donna Brazile and Reince Priebus, both ABC News analysts. Donna Brazile on the Democratic side, of course, and you have talked to folks within the Biden campaign. Donna, what does he need to do tonight, in particular, after having seen those voters in all the key battlegrounds that you know will decide this election? What does he really need to do here?
Joe Biden has lived the American dream. He understands the hopes and challenges and, yes, the fears of everyday American. Tonight, he's going to tell them not only what he has accomplished, but what he can do over the next 4 years. It's about projecting strength. It's about being honest with the American people. But he will also make a contrast with the other candidate who is all about himself. Joe Biden is about lifting up every American. That's what he has to tell them tonight.
Reince Priebus, what's your answer to that? What's the counter? And as John Karl was asking, which Donald Trump shows up? A more statesman-like Donald Trump, or aggressive, or is there going to be sort of equal parts up there on that stage?
You're probably going to get equal parts. But first of all, I think that number one, be nice. I think that's something that he's got to do. Number two, focus on the issues. And number three, let Biden talk. And as you saw in the segment that you just ran there, what this is about is not so much all the policy disputes, but what is Joe Biden doing about the price of groceries? What's he doing about the price of gas, insurance, plane tickets? That's what those people want to know. They want to know how Joe Biden or Donald Trump is going to make their lives easier instead of living paycheck to paycheck. So that's what this is about. And the more it's on the issues, the better it's going to be for Donald Trump. And I think that's where his focus is going to be.
All right, Reince Priebus, Donna Brazile, stick with us here. We're going to be coming back to you all night long. Thank you for that. When we come back here, as you heard Reince mention, the economy, inflation, also tonight, abortion rights, the leaning of the Supreme Court, of course, immigration. We're going to go live to the border. President Biden, of course, taking action in recent weeks on the border. The question, of course, is it too close to the election? Was it too late? What his answer will likely be to that tonight on that stage. Former President Trump saying, give me the job back. I can do a better job. So we're going to debate that out here as well. And as Reince was talking about, when it comes to the economy and inflation, you can talk all you want about the numbers, inflation slowing, but it's how the voter feels out there. So we'll travel the country. That's going to be very telling as well here in a moment. We'll hear from the voters again. ABC News live coverage preparing for this debate tonight, and then we'll carry the debate live in a little less than 40 minutes from now, right here. Don't go away.
Every time I needed a new phone, I had to switch carriers.
I told them at Verizon, everyone can get that iPhone 15 on them.
Now that I got a huge storage and battery upgrade, I'm officially done switching.
New and existing customers get iPhone 15 on us when they trade in any iPhone at Verizon.
Hey, CoverGirls.
CoverGirls need no filters.
With the new Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence.
Where skincare meets makeup. Burst and blend for bare skin filter effect. That is all you.
The new Skin Perfector Essence from CoverGirl.
Oh, Smokey, come on, live a little.
Restaurant Store.
30 chairs, non-squeak.
Restaurant Store.
15 non-wobbly tables.
Restaurant Store.
Add 8 cases of pint glasses.
Restaurant Store.
Lights.
Restaurant Store.
Add a set of knives.
Restaurant Store.
What did they use this for?
Restaurant Store.
That's gotta go.
Restaurant Store.
Where are we gonna find all this stuff?
I already ordered it.
Huh? All of it?
Restaurant Store. For whatever your restaurant needs.
You want to come or just unmute your mic, Renee.
Hey Pam, I can't hear you because the audio is kind of loud on the video that you're showing.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
All right, I'm gonna mute myself again because I'm running a couple of things too. So hey, how you doing?
I'm good, Renee, I'm good. Shelly Howard's show mentions infrastructure.
Yeah, figure out how you can get the video sound down a little bit because we can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Let me see if I can.
There should be a volume on the video.
Right. I don't. You know what? I don't see any control on the video with the sound. Shoot. Can you hold on a second?
Let me listen to it on my phone and see if it sounds lower. Hold on.
Can you guys
stream on Hulu?
I turned down.
Good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America. On YouTube.
I'm Matt Rivers, traveling with the U.S. Secretary of State in Beijing, China. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
I had to cut down the.
The race for the White House. Here again, David Muir.
Good evening again, everyone. We're about 35 minutes away from the debate live right here on ABC. The first time in 4 years that Joe Biden and Donald Trump have met each other on a debate stage. And here we are again. We were talking just before the break about the economy and in particular inflation in this country and how the American voter feels. Again, the numbers aren't important unless you're feeling it. And do they feel as though their money is getting them as far as it was a few years back? I want to bring in our chief economics and business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis. She's live. And of course, one of the key battleground states of Wisconsin. Rebecca, you and I were talking a little earlier today about the voters you were talking with there, and you heard it everywhere you went, that folks don't generally feel as though their money is getting as far.
That's right, David. Everywhere I went today, people had a very common refrain, which was, I know the jobs are here, but I don't know if I can make my rent, my grocery, my gas payments. I'm standing in a place where President Biden visited just a few months ago. It is this Microsoft data center behind me, a $3.3 billion investment that it brought to the local area, a promise of 2,500 jobs. In fact, Wisconsin has some of the lowest unemployment in the country at 2.9%. But again, when you talk to people in town, as I did today, the biggest concern on the top of their list is not measuring the economy in terms of jobs. It is looking at prices. And while they've come down a bit, they are still so much higher than they were just 3 years ago, David.
Rebecca Jarvis in Wisconsin. Rebecca, thank you. And of course, that leads to us watching very closely tonight which of these candidates is going to message in some way, that we feel your pain. It sounds so cliche after many years of covering these presidential debates, but which one will message that despite any kind of numbers that are out there? In addition to inflation, the economy, of course, immigration is right up there at the top here in this country, one of the most volatile political issues of this campaign. As you know, President Biden in recent weeks taking action on the border, shutting down the border between legal ports of entry. The immediate questions from critics, why did you wait so long? He pointed to that bipartisan bill that was so close in the Senate, saying Donald Trump torpedoed it. But of course, it's what the voter thinks as we get closer to Election Day. Let's bring in Maria Villarreal. She's on the border tonight. She has covered this day in and day out for ABC News. And Maria, the big question is, what do you hear down there from voters and nationally as far as this issue not going away, and it's at the forefront of this election?
David, here's the thing. Immigration doesn't affect people on their day-to-day basis, right? But this is about creating a sense of security and safety for the American people. And that's exactly what we are hearing from local leaders and law enforcement. That is what they're looking for tonight. They want to feel that from both candidates, and they want to see an actual plan moving forward. President Biden says, listen, I did that 3 weeks ago. I essentially shut down the border with my executive order. And just in the last 3 weeks, I've actually sent back 24,000 plus people to their home countries, 20 different countries. He will have said, listen, I tried to sign a bipartisan bill. That's exactly what he told you, David, but it was torpedoed by former President Donald Trump. Critics will say, as you just mentioned, why did it take so long to issue this executive order? And among that group will be former President Donald Trump saying, give immigration to me. I can handle it way better than the president is doing right now. Regardless of that, what we are going to hear tonight from both Republicans and Democrats is this is an important issue. We need to have change, and that's exactly what viewers are going to be listening for as well.
Really important point, Maria, because I think Democrats and Republicans and independents in this country all rank the economy and immigration up there as top issues that need to be dealt with in some manner, shape, or form in this country. Maria, thank you for that. I want to bring in Rachel Scott again. She's live in Atlanta. She's at the debate site. In addition to covering the race for president, she's covered the issue of abortion rights across this country. And of course, the overturning of Roe a couple of years ago now. And of course, this big test today from the Supreme Court on abortion rights, testing the states rolling back these rights, issuing abortion bans across the country. The state of Idaho, the first one where this was tested, whether or not a woman who has a health risk going to the ER should be allowed to get an abortion. And the court saying today, Rachel, yes, for now, sending it back down to the courts. But the larger question going into tonight, how big of an issue will President Biden make this going into Election Day? And how will the former president, if this is President Biden's key issue or one of them, how will the former president, Donald Trump, get up there and defend, as he continues to do, putting in place the justices who overturned Roe at the court?
We are expecting President Biden to really drill in on this issue, David, because it is, of course, the former president who appointed 3 of the 5 Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe versus Wade. That cleared the way for 21 states to ban or severely restrict access to abortion. The president and Democrats looking at what's happening across the country. They are keenly aware that abortion rights has won in all 6 states where it has appeared on the ballot. Even in conservative states, Kansas, Kentucky, Ohio, it could be on the ballot in as many as a dozen states this November, including several critical battlegrounds. As for the former president, I am told that Trump's advisors have prepared him for questions about this, and especially on his stance on abortion bans going forward. We know the former president believes in exceptions for rape, incest, and to save the life of the mother, but he has not said the health of the mother or whether or not he believes the abortion pill should be further restricted, David.
You'll be watching that closely, as you always do, on this issue and every other issue. Rachel, thank you. Let's get right to Terry Moran. He covers the Supreme Court, has for years for us. Terry, as I mentioned, the former President Donald Trump taking credit for overturning Roe. It was a promise made and a promise kept by the former president. The question now, though, is how he dances through what we're now seeing, sort of the ripple effect of the overturning of Roe across the country. It's something that he'll likely have to answer to tonight on that stage. And as Rachel sort of alludes to, his advisors have tried to coach him on perhaps what we saw from the court today is a careful approach to how the country moves forward from here.
Yeah, we can't.
That's right. This is a court transformed by Donald Trump. Those 3 appointees, in the words of Justice Sonia Sotomayor, swing for the fences. They look for big cases to make big decisions and big changes in American law and American life, like overturning Roe versus Wade, ending affirmative action in college admissions, dramatically expanding gun rights, and more. And there are potential political costs for Republicans in many areas because of those rulings. There's no question that Donald Trump, if he were to be reelected, would have a chance to do even more, to get 1, maybe 2 more appointments on the Supreme Court and transform that conservative supermajority swing for the fences into a MAGA majority on the Supreme Court.
Just help to define that for our viewers. Just bring everybody up to speed, because you mentioned a sort of a super majority on the court right now. In terms of numbers, what does that mean, and what does that potentially mean for whoever gets elected to the presidency next?
Right now it's 6-3 conservatives. 2 of the conservatives are somewhat older, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. The others are in their 50s. They're going to be there for decades. And should Donald Trump get a chance, if he were reelected, to appoint another justice or 2, you would have a Supreme Court that would be dominated by his appointees.
Oh my God.
8:33. We're now about 26 minutes from the debate. Terry, thank you. We'll carry it here on ABC News, as we've been mentioning all evening long. And we're just getting started here. We're here to watch the debate with all of you at home. We have teams standing by both in Ukraine and in Israel tonight. What does the war in Ukraine look like, depending on who is elected come this November? And of course, the Israel-Gaza.
It said mute screen audio, and I hit the mute.
In the key battlegrounds, most worried about.
But it did mute. Renee, I hit the mute. I found the mute button for the audio, on-screen audio.
Yeah, it didn't mute.
It won't
All
mute.
you have to do is turn the volume down a little bit. It muted. We can't hear anything right now.
Hold on a second. I literally found it has mute
Switch to
screen
the partner
audio,
businesses rely on.
and I've clicked
Let's
on
try.
it, and it's not muting it.
It actually muted, Pam.
Huh?
It muted.
Didn't. I still hear it. I shouldn't hear it. And I
We
still
don't
hear
hear
the flash for the phone or for the screen. Still hear it.
Oh, we don't hear it.
Oh, you don't hear it?
No.
Hold on. Renee, do you hear me or do you hear the screen?
No. Now you sound low. I don't hear the video, but I can't hear you because I think you turned your volume down.
Can you hear me? problem. Can you hear me now? Okay, I've muted everything, so I sound low. Maybe because you hear the Renee, do you hear the screen? Do you hear the thanks for watching break?
Yes, I hear the waiting music playing on the video.
Okay. It seems Mark, I'm having an issue. I'm a type to Mark. You can hear me well, Mark? Oh, Loretta says, I hear you, Kim. I hear someone shout too. Yeah, that's one of the trips. Renee is on stage with me. I hear better now. Okay.
We're not the only ones watching this debate tonight. About 20 minutes or so away, 23 minutes from the debate here on ABC. World leaders are watching this very closely as well. Perhaps no one more than President Zelensky in Ukraine. Let's bring in our foreign correspondent, James Longman, who has spent many, many months reporting from inside Ukraine. And James, what are your sources telling you on the ground there in that country about how closely they're watching and what they think will be different depending on who wins this race in November?
David, it's no exaggeration to say that the fate of this country is in the hands of one of these two men on that debate stage tonight, because everybody here knows that a deal is going to have to be struck, and it's an American president that will be striking that deal between Ukraine and Russia, because quite simply, this country cannot continue fighting this war. Manpower is a massive issue. You go to any town, any village across Ukraine, you will see fresh flags flying over freshly dug graves. Everybody knows someone who's died fighting or someone who's been badly injured. So the mood for a deal is there here in Ukraine. President Zelensky will be watching this debate to see who he's going to be able to better deal with. Vladimir Putin, too, who has already presented a deal. The problem is the deal is just not something that Ukraine could ever accept. He is asking for Ukraine to cede all of the territory that Russia has already taken and more, 2 key cities. He's asking that they limit the size of their military. And crucially, he says that Ukraine must not join NATO. And we know how President Trump feels about NATO. So I think there's going to be some nervousness here in Ukraine about this debate and, of course, the result in November. David?
Watching closely from Ukraine, James and the team, we appreciate you so much. And let's bring in Matt Gutman, who's live in Israel tonight. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu likely watching the dynamics here in the U.S. also very closely, the ongoing conflict, the war inside Gaza. We can't forget the hostages that remain in the hands of Hamas, including Americans. Also, of course, the Palestinian civilian toll over many, many months inside Gaza. Matt, what are your sources of the ground there telling you about the impact of whatever the result is here come November?
David, there could very well be a geopolitical impact to this very debate, which is unprecedented, right? We're told that Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, is going to be watching this incredibly closely, right? So President Biden has been a known quantity. He arrived in Israel right after the war, physically embracing Netanyahu on the tarmac. He sent 2 aircraft carriers to the region. He gave Israel an unprecedented amount of armaments and support politically. So that's a known quantity. But for Israel at this point, President Trump, former President Trump, could be a bit of a wild card. Netanyahu has been close to him in the past. He's going to be watching very closely how much loyalty Trump is going to.
Okay, guys. Listen, I stopped sharing that video because I realized that the actual debate isn't going to start until 9 o'clock. I am so mad. I wish they kept marketing everything 8 o'clock, just so they could talk for a whole hour before the actual debate happens. So let us have our own little chat for a while. Renee, I'm game. Mark, anybody else want to chat with me? Let's chat, and then we can go back to the live feed closer to and give it another 10 minutes, because they're just talking and talking and talking and stuff. So I just want to have some time. I did mute the YouTube, Mark. I did try to mute it, but it wouldn't work. It made me go low instead of the YouTube go low. Go figure. I don't know. So I'll have to this was my first time ever streaming anything from another entity or anything, so I gotta learn, I guess. Oh boy, guys. Yeah, I took it off share for right now. I can go back to it, but it's just that it was just too much talking, and we're ready for the debate. They gave mixed messages. They didn't tell the truth about when this thing was going to start. Oh, Melania Trump not attending the debate. But you know what, Loretta? I think that I don't think they can have anybody in the audience, right? Is it just nobody in the audience? Or whatever. So does anyone think Trumpster will go rogue? He can go rogue, but you know what? They can cut his mic too. And he could just be going rogue all by himself. That's what I would do. Yep. And Renee, you feel free to talk. You probably are dealing with the kids. That's why you're not talking right now.
Yeah, I got the little ones in the background, but they're pretty quiet right now. I'm wondering, I have a question. I'm wondering, does anybody think he's Trump's is gonna try to deflect from what's going on stage by announcing his VP pick?
Oh, you know what? That would be a PR move to get people more buzz on him. You know, that I'm gonna tell you. He might do that. And have you noticed how quiet DeSatan has been? Has anybody else noticed that? DeSatan has been mighty, mighty quiet.
Did you say I don't, Satan?
DeSatan.
Oh, DeSatan. Oh, yeah, he's done. He's got lawsuits against him right now. He can't talk too much.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, he's fighting a couple of lawsuits, and he's got more coming once he gets out of office.
Oh, good. Mark wishes there was a live audience. Nah, I'm glad that there's not. Because, see, Trump is a showman. Biden is not. And so Trump would get them revved up and hooping and hollering and all of that. Nope. And as we talked about earlier, Biden, when he gets a little nervous or anxious, he has that speech impediment, and that's when it really cuts up. You know, that's when it really cuts up.
That's true. But the stutter for Biden, I think, is baked in with everybody. Everybody already knows he has that impediment and he's got a stutter. So I think people will be forgiven. He'll be forgiven for that.
Yeah. But Mary Trump is here supporting Biden. Look, I didn't think anybody was out there in the audience. Is there?
Yeah, they can have a few family members, I think, and they can have their campaign people, but not too many. It's not like it's an audience. It's just a few select people that can be there.
Okay. Well, I don't want them clapping or nothing.
They'll get kicked out if they do.
So you know for a fact that Mary Trump is there, Mark? They say the VP candidate is there with him. The three that are there are J.D. Vance, Byron Donaldson, and Burgum. Oh my God. If Byron is Byron Donalds, I can't stand Byron Donalds. Oh my God. Oh, he is just the worst. He is just, oh, whew, I can't. I just no. I didn't know that they were there. Oh goodness.
Yeah, he said that he's pretty sure that his Trumpster said that he's pretty sure that his VP is going to be there. Yeah. So one of the three, I guess. But I knew he wasn't going to pick a black person.
But Byron Donalds is black.
He ain't picking him.
J.D. Vance. Who is Burgum? I don't know who Burgum is.
Burgum is the millionaire. He's a millionaire.
Look, he gonna pick the one with the money because he needs money.
That's my thought too.
So he's gonna pick the one who has the money. Okay, they're in the spin room. I wonder. I really would rather use MSNBC, but I couldn't find them on YouTube.
That's who I'm using, MSNBC.
Right. I have them on my TV, but I don't have them. The thing is that on YouTube, I don't think that they're doing the live feed where I can share. But okay, MSNBC debate live. Okay, watch. Wait a minute. I'm confused.
I think you can get it from Facebook, but I don't know if you can get it from YouTube.
Yeah, live. Okay, this is NBC News. I could use. Well, listen, I'll just use the ABC. It'll do. It's all I want to see is the debate. I want to see that. He was watching over on CNN. Now I could use CNN. I think CNN's is live because that's the mothership where it's all coming from anyway. That's CBS. Oh, that's Fox. I absolutely don't want to use no Fox. Here's CNN. You want me to? You think I should I switch over to CNN? Oh, Burgum is from the Dakotas. He ran against him. I can't picture who he is. It's like when you have a concert and folks are watching it in another location. Yeah. You think I should switch over to CNN or stay on ABC? What you think? I mean, it's all gonna be the same. So I'll just keep it where I found it already, I guess. Unless let me see this one. Hold on. That is okay. That's not YouTube. CNN. Okay. All right. The dog shooting in Dakota? No, that's that lady. That's that Nome lady. The governor of is she over in North Dakota? Oh, that was horrible. Listen, she shot a dog. I'm done with her. CNN is fine too, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's Nome. Kristi Noem, I believe is her name.
Yeah,
And she's the one that shot the dog. She's not getting chosen.
no. No. Let me see. Let me see. CNN. I'm gonna go to CNN. CNN debate. Let me see. Oh, that's Fox. This is the Washington Post. I put in CNN. First presidential debate. Live. Simulcast PBS. CNN is 6. Oh, here it is. Okay. Is this it? Okay. Here.
Banana Republic. He says he'd throw her in jail. And every network went nuts on him. Our focus group said, oh my God, he's actually going to hold her accountable. This is exactly what we're looking for in politics. So he was a disaster in 2020.
I have another question, Pam, for everyone.
When you look at
do y'all think this is going to have the largest audience of a debate so far?
Okay. What did you say, Renee?
I'm curious whether or not you think that. I was just curious to ask everyone, do they think that this is going to be the largest debate audience so far?
That's a good question. Renee says, do you guys think this is going to be the largest debate audience so far that we've had? What do you think, Showy Howie? Okay, he was also governor of that state and an entrepreneur type. He is somewhat milquetoast in terms of personality. Ooh, we can't take two personalities like Trump. That's for sure. That he's talking. Mark is talking about Doug Burgum. Showy Howie, you think that this is? Are you saying yes to thinking that this is going to be our largest, one of the largest debate audiences we've ever had? Supposedly he balanced their budget. Felons are Showy said felons always draw a big crowd. Oh goodness. Most definitely the humor and scare scenario ever. Yeah. Ooh, child. This is too much. Well, we're gonna we're switching from ABC News to CNN, so I'm gonna flip over there in a few minutes. Yeah, this is so. Renee,
I think we should just text during the video because we're gonna have a hard time hearing you. So you think it's better if we text?
Yeah, we'll text in the chat during when the video's on. Since we can't seem to make the volume go down like the screen says it should. I think it will be huge, Mark says. Yeah, I think I'm interested to see what the numbers are going to be because I've never done this before myself, And even the last time I was just I hadn't done it. Yeah. So we shall see. We shall see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and get going. And we'll just text in the chat, guys. Okay. Oh. Okay, I got to go back and hit.
Doesn't like her. But when you actually look at this, you write in this and say that the key moments that will have the greatest impact on the remaining undecided voters, which is obviously what we're all paying attention to here, are those in which the candidates attack each other in defining ways or undermine the political case that each wants to present to Americans. Viewers will quickly decide whether the accusations are fair and the response is effective. I mean, if you were trying to appeal to these independent, undecided voters Thursday night, what does that look like?
By the way, it's only 4%. It's only in 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And I'd be asking a rhetorical question, just like Reagan did. Is inflation higher or lower today than it was 4 years ago? Is the border safer or less safe? Do you feel more or less secure? If I'm Donald Trump, and if I'm Joe Biden, do you really want to go back to that chaos? Do you really want to go back to, and I'm going to do that for 3 or 4 times, either ask a question or make a statement where you know the public at home is nodding their heads, yes. The problem is Trump wants to own Joe Biden, and he's got no self-control whatsoever. And in Joe Biden's case, he really hasn't figured out how to handle the ex-president, and he's not made the case for his own re-election as well as he could have. The economy is better than people realize. The situation, the legislation that he's passed, they don't know this. And you know what? It's not your fault.
Talking
It's the
about
president's
it
fault.
now.
When you're watching a football game and you're there and you can hear the audience, or you're watching it on TV, or you can see the refs and their calls, when you look at this and there's no audience for a moment like that, what Trump said about Hillary Clinton, there would have been no reaction to that inside that room if there had been no audience. If there's that, if the mics are being cut off, and maybe we'll still see them talking in the 2 shots, but not actually hear them, how much of a difference do you think that'll make?
Huge. It's a big deal. These rules do not help Donald Trump. He was so eager to get Joe Biden into a debate that he said yes to anything. If I'd been advising him, I would have said, not this one. Yes, you want to debate him, but not through these rules. You need an audience. And second, he's so, he has no faith in Biden even being able to complete a sentence. So week after week, he made fun of him. And now he's trying to reverse that. Now he's trying to raise their expectations. It doesn't work. If you tell people for months, this guy can't complete a sentence.
Yeah, with a week to go, and you're saying, oh, he's going to be formidable, or this year's, he's going to be jacked up on drugs was 2020's, oh, he's going to have an earpiece, both ridiculous accusations. The other thing, though, is these 2 men are probably the best known politicians in U.S. history. To see them go up on the stage, everyone knows everything about them. Is there anything really left to say to change voters' minds, do you think?
Not much. 70% of Americans do not want these 2 people. They're upset that it's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. In the end, I believe we're going to be voting those final undecided voters, not on the candidate they like, but on the candidate they dislike the least. And that's why our democracy is so challenged right now. We're not happy with our choices, so we're trying to vote for the least worst evil.
CNN's Jeff Zeleny brings us now this look at how much the United States, the world, and these 2 candidates have changed since they first took the stage.
The historic rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is anything but a rerun. A vastly different set of issues are driving this race as the president and former president come face to face for their first debate of the 2024 campaign. 4 years since they shared a stage.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
in 47 months, I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe.
Feels like an upside down lifetime ago, back when the coronavirus pandemic was raging.
I think masks are okay. You have to understand, if you look, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it.
This is his economy he's shut down.
In the Biden-Trump sequel, An entirely new fight has been brewing on the campaign trail.
We could end up in World War III with this person. He's the worst president ever.
And in TV ads.
This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
That offers a window into the new issues and fresh lines of attack. A reminder of just how much the country, the world, and yes, they have changed. From an insurrection and all its fallout to a new fight on abortion rights. In the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and a war in the Middle East, to the very stark question of America's role in the world. Yet the economy, inflation, and immigration are still at the center of it all. Trump's record was at the heart of their last debates, even as he sought to deflect.
If he gets in, you will have a depression the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
While those warnings didn't come to pass, Biden's record is now under the microscope, complicating his effort to make it a referendum on Trump.
The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
And America's oldest presidential candidates are even older. Trump 78, Biden 81, with age and fitness for office now a central issue in the race. Public opinion for presidents can be punishing. Biden's favorability has fallen 11 points since 2020, with nearly 6 in 10 Americans holding an unfavorable view. Perceptions of Trump have changed less, with more than half still seeing him in an unfavorable light. Televised debates have long been a storied part of presidential campaigns, with history-making moments for candidates.
There you go again.
Yet this showdown is without parallel. The nation's 45th and 46th presidents, still seeking to define one another in the earliest general election debate in memory, an old duel being fought on new ground.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Great to be here. Thank you.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000.
I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down.
I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, When we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a four-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back, religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous. And they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period, period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress. All of the different things I approved, they abandoned. He had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day. And I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
Yeah. First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
You'll be.
Biden, you have a minute.
You're a felon.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that There was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, the debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will you denounce these guys? We denounce the people we're talking about now? We denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. Well, you want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night when your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Wait a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official
fighting back
to the
now.
Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. They spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Y'all.
I'm so excited. I'm finally here in the city. What?
Okay, guys. Woo, what do y'all think? What are y'all thinking? What are y'all thinking, y'all? What are you thinking? What are you guys thinking? Let's see. Loretta Biden showing life about time. I know. You know what? Why didn't they give him a hot toddy, some hot lemon and some honey or something? I think I wrote that in the chat earlier. He needed something warm to drink. And then he also, it's possible he doesn't feel that good because he's been flying all over the place. He really has. He has been flying all over the place. And it's not like he's 30, he's 81, So, shoot, I get tired myself on a regular. But they needed when I first heard his voice, I was like, oh, no, his voice is weak. Yeah. Michelle, your device isn't connected. I know you're trying to get on stage, but your device isn't connected. Is something wrong? Let's see.
You might hear my children in the background. Hey, Pam, you might hear my children in the background, but what I have to say is, Biden didn't come out strong at the gate. And his stutter was getting the better of him. But I think in the end, I think he really started getting strong because I think he was pissed off.
Yeah.
And And Trumpster, you could tell, was losing it at the end because he just was rambling, and just going on and on and on. And he was upset when he talked about the felon stuff. And his off-screen facial expressions were a lot worse than Biden. Biden, could have, they should have given him a hot toddy because of his stuff.
Yeah, he needed a hot toddy, or they needed some water on the stage or something. And I didn't like how I felt like Trump had an opportunity to talk longer than Biden did. I felt that way. And Biden, you could see him get mad, his voice, how he would just look and his mouth would gap open because the dude was lying so bad.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think he was, I don't know if they can have water, he can't confer with his people during the break. So
right.
I don't know if they can give him sign language or something to say you need to do this or that, but I'm hoping they can tell him, and he probably will get water during the break, so that might make a difference, but I'm hoping then they'll figure out, he needs something for his voice during the break, and they can at least give him a tea or something.
Yeah. I tell you, listen, you have it on to let me know when to go back to the live. Is it time to go back to the live?
I don't think so yet. Your video is a little bit behind on the so it might be it's a little bit behind now. Before it was a lot behind, but it's a little
it looks like we're back. Okay, hold on.
The wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump, almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
That's right.
38 seconds left. Right. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing with the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able, like the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're gonna, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before.
That's true.
And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. So many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace.
No.
But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for two
Trump
children
just cannot let stuff go. He had to go back to the general.
What would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the 2 of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. That's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said, by literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, et cetera. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you.
Is he really
President Biden?
right?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful peace. Because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might. Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Okay, he done pissed Trumpster off. He called him a whiner. They called the break just in time because Trumpster was getting ready to lose it.
Yep. Oh, wait. Hold on. When he did it's just fair and all of it same last time.
Cam, we can't hear you.
Oh, and I know you. Is it was I needed to get the angrier Biden got, the more he just, yeah. Yes.
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest Pride celebrations all in one place as they happen live right here on ABC News Live. Pride across America. Celebrate joy, love, freedom, and pride. Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on ABC News Live and stream on Hulu.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump.
I didn't even
President Biden.
Talking about.
Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Watched as a nation now, the first presidential debate of this election cycle. This is the earliest presidential debate that we've ever witnessed as a country. We're staying on this shot to see if they acknowledge one another. One of the telling parts of this evening was from the very start, the walkout onto that debate stage in Atlanta, both the current president, President Biden, and former President Donald Trump walking out onto that stage. There was no handshake. It wasn't anticipated, though there wasn't even a look toward one another as this debate began. The tone was set right away. They debated on issues including the economy, inflation, jobs, handling of COVID, both during the Trump years and during the Biden years. Foreign policy, Afghanistan, how both handled Afghanistan, the role of NATO in talking about Ukraine, what the future of Ukraine looks like. They talked about January 6th. And whether or not former President Donald Trump would denounce those who stormed the Capitol. That was asked of him by the current president, President Biden. There was not an answer to that particular question, though they did spar going back and forth multiple times. The split screen, allowing the country to examine both of these men. And one of the main questions going into the night, because again, as we had mentioned, they both have been president now. Americans know their records. They've studied them. They feel like they know them. This was going to be a test tonight in aptitude. There was that moment not far from the beginning of the debate when President Biden was talking about the debt and talking about taxing billionaires in this country, where he was describing what the effect of the policy that he was proposing would have. And then there was that pause, about 5-6 seconds, where he didn't say anything. And then he went on to say, we finally beat Medicare. A bit of a non sequitur, it seemed. We'll be waiting to see how the Biden team explains that out. Let's get to both camps and find out how they believe their candidates did. Rachel Scott live in Atlanta in the spin room. Rachel, what are we hearing from Donald Trump's campaign tonight?
Well, I'll tell you that a senior advisor to the Trump campaign tells me that they let out a huge exhale from the moment that President Biden answered that very first question. Sources within the Trump campaign said they were asking what was wrong with President Biden, what was wrong with his voice. They do feel like the former president tonight stayed on message. And so much of the talk heading into this was, which version of Donald Trump are we going to get? Were we going to get the combative Donald Trump that we saw in that debate in 2020, where he's interrupting? It turned into a shouting match. We did not get that version of Donald Trump tonight. This is exactly what his advisors wanted to see. They wanted to see the former president take questions on tough issues like January 6th, even his legal troubles, and then pivot back to the issues they believe are winning issues in this election: immigration, crime, the economy. We saw the former president do that many times. I will tell you, David, that out on the campaign trail, the former president does use a lot more harsh rhetoric when it comes to talking about certain issues, including immigration. He vows the largest deportation in American history. He says that immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country. He didn't go so far as to repeat any of that incendiary rhetoric that we hear a lot of times on the campaign trail. One thing was clear, though, David, this turned personal rather quickly. You had President Biden call him a convicted felon, and then you had the former president fire back and call his son a convicted felon. And we are told that during these commercial breaks, these candidates did not look at each other, they did not talk, and obviously they did not shake hands on that debate stage tonight, David.
Yeah, that was another first that we witnessed. Rachel Scott, thank you. The Trump campaign happy with Donald Trump's performance tonight, the moment when President Biden did point out the fact that his opponent is a convicted felon, another split screen moment when he talked about what he was convicted of. There was some head nodding from the former President Donald Trump, which again made for a moment unlike, and there were many moments here that we have seen before. I am curious about that particular moment in the beginning, because so much had been said about President Biden going into tonight. A lot of eyes across the country watching, again, this sort of aptitude test for both gentlemen. One is 78, one is 81 years old. There was the moment, the pause, and sort of a non sequitur there just to finish the thought. Any reaction from the Biden campaign tonight, from the White House tonight on that and the rest of the evening?
Yeah, look, there is no question. This is not the night that the Biden campaign wanted or needed. They were going into this hoping that the president's performance would put to rest those remaining concerns about his age and his fitness for office. It is hard to see how what we just saw did that, how it put to bed those concerns. He had a rough start, as you noted. He was rambling. He struggled at times to collect his thoughts. There was that pause. Now, we are told that the president had a cold tonight. Perhaps that did play a role somehow. But the Biden campaign knows that this was not a strong night for them. They are stressing this was just one night. They know that this race is not going to be determined or won in one night, that they can still go on offense in the days ahead. But this was the largest audience that he had in this race so far. It was a missed opportunity. And I think that is the reaction that you are hearing from a lot of Democrats privately. You know, look, Biden did have strong moments. He did try to hold Trump accountable. They had strong exchanges. He tried to hold his feet to the fire on abortion. He called him out for being a convicted criminal. I think the concern and the real risk here is that the substance, the message is being lost in how it is being delivered.
But even on abortion rights, there was a moment when they were talking about Donald Trump and the overturning of Roe, Donald Trump on the campaign trail. And as president, took credit for that. He did.
Hey guys. Hey everyone. Can y'all hear me? Wait a minute, probably. Because okay. Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to call it a night because I've been on here for 3 hours. Is it 3 hours? Yeah, 3 hours and 13 minutes because I thought this whole thing started at 8 o'clock and I actually started at 7:30. So at any rate, guys, I enjoyed chatting with you guys and all of that. Renee, thanks so much for coming on stage and everything.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. They're saying that Biden had a cold and stuff. So,
Yeah, in the beginning, I think the beginning was really bad for him, for Biden, I'm just going to say. And even though Trumpster was lying about everything, he at least didn't look like he had a cold. And he looked like his lying was strong lying. He was just lying his butt off, but he was convinced that he is going to lie his ass off, and he did it.
Yep. And he did it. And he's such a convincing liar. He is a master liar. Master liar. But anyway,
I'm not sure. I think maybe that they could have let Biden get a little more rest and prep him as much as they tried to. I think he needed more sleep than anything.
Yeah. But when he got angry, that's when he got fired up,
Yeah, I think that was, I agree. I think he, as MSNBC is saying, that the Biden campaign wished that he had the second half as his first half.
Right.
Because the second half, Biden was on fire. But by that time, Trump had already made it look like he is the more vigorous person. So.
Right. But and the thing is, even though he was lying, that's the problem.
Yes. But CNN had already said they weren't going to fact check. They said that before.
I'm not, and I don't understand that, because since when, as a journalist, you don't fact check? That's a problem for me. That's a problem.
Right. And that was the concern of everybody going into this debate, was that if the outlet is not going to fact check, that would leave it up to Biden to fact check. And Biden cannot fact check everything this crazy man has lied about.
No, I know. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
And we'll see how the spin room spins it, but they're going to probably say that Trumpster won this, even though he lied every word out of his mouth. I think it's going to be Trumpster won this, and now the Democrats are going to go into the summer all concerned. Well, they're going to have to step up their game.
We're going to have to step up and act like we got some kahunas. But I will tell you one thing that concerns me about all of this is that I really feel that when Biden decided he was going to run again, and I remember Gavin Newsom had gone to visit him at the White House, and I really wish that he could have checked his ego, because that's what it is, and pushed for Gavin to lead instead of him. That's what I wish had happened.
Well, I think they're setting Gavin up for 2028.
I know, but
and it's kind of hard to change. It's kind of hard to change your horse midstream, because then you
I
have to
know.
start all over again.
Right,
Yeah, like
but
Gavin may not have picked Kamala as his VP. So
I know.
it would
I
have been
know.
started all over
All
again.
I know, but I'm gonna tell you, at least we wouldn't have to go. It would have been the fraud against a much younger, more vigorous man. And I'm gonna tell you this: one of the issues that Biden has is that he does look old. I have to admit he does, but a lot of that is because he is having such a hard time with the job that he has. It ages you so
Yep.
much.
Look how every president looked after they got out of their first 4 years. They all look aged.
Exactly. And not that he's not competent and fit. He is much more physically fit than Trump is, by far. He still rides a bike and all that kind of stuff. This dude, he doesn't do nothing. So anyways,
Well, the thing is though, I still believe Biden is going to win this. So I just think that Democrats are going to have to be, we're going to be nervous until November.
but we can't act like we're nervous. We have to act like we're confident and put some kahunas behind him.
Right.
You
And,
know,
but you got to remember, this man went to Europe, Paris,
Right.
NATO, this and all that, and still came back and prepped for a debate.
I know.
Which,
I know.
His team should have said, you know what, we're not going to prep this for a week. What we're going to do is let you rest for 3 days and we're prepped for 2 days or something like that. But they didn't do that. They pushed him and pushed him. And, I still think that Biden is going to win. It's just going to be nail biting for the rest of the Democrats until September, in which he's going to have to make a comeback.
Girl. Oh,
I know. We were hoping that we just like sail through this and it'll be just another one. But and I know there are plenty of people saying, well, he should have never agreed to do a debate because he's putting him up there like he's equal to him and he's not. But my problem was he could not debate Trump because then he would look like he's weak, that he's afraid of the bully. So I think he had no choice. But woo-wee.
It's a lot, and it's a lot. We just are dealing with a lot. Well, anyways, girl, I'm gonna jump off of this thing. I thank you so much for joining me.
Okay, thank you for having me. It was good to have somebody else. Now I'm going to get on the phone and talk to all my crying Democratic friends.
Yeah, because my girlfriend blew up my phone. Well, back.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to calm some people down. Like, okay, hold your water. It's okay.
All right.
All right. I will talk with you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.